here is your building setup. All the clutter will be gone by the time you guys come in. We have purple and yellow weaves this week. We've never had that color combo here before, but I noticed at Zanesville when there was that color combo, dogs were faulting the weaves a lot, and I don't know if it was the colors, but just to be safe, I put up purple and yellow for something different to do. So last week we had just over half the classes and they all started their 6 recalls work. This week I decided to continue with collection recall work because I didn't want to continue on a divided lesson plan for the rest of the session, since for some people, or for some classes, it's week 1, for others it's week 2. So for those that had class last week, I'll give you your own lesson plan towards the end of this video. It's gonna be similar to what I give for those that haven't had class, but I just wanted you guys to know I'm not dividing it up. I also had Susan requested forward send and lateral send work, so I tried to put that into the lesson plan this week so that those that were reviewing can continue to review that. So this is week 1 for about half the classes, so that means that it is the beginning of the session. So they are going to start their recall work, and I told my classes last week part of the reason we do the recalls is so that, 1, we are reviewing the jumping, or the good jumping at least once a year and prioritizing at least once a year, but 2, so that they also have small space indoor activity, 1 obstacle stuff they can do for homework since the weather's kind of questionable. So it is something they can put in their fitness routines. It's something that they can put in their small space training routines. So that's kind of the objective and the reason that I like to do them at the beginning of the year. So with that, we reviewed our 6 recalls, did a little pop quiz at the beginning of class, and then we went through and reviewed collection. What does jumping and collection mean? Blah, blah, blah. We went over to the whiteboard and discussed the 4 steps that we go through and progress through with our recalls. So that's, both dog and handler stationary. The second one, dog add in dog motion, handler stationary. Third one, flip flop that. And then the 4th one, both are moving. So we did all of that. And then we went into 1 jump, just collection recall at 1 jump. So I had them put the dogs 20 plus feet back, okay, because most of them were advanced, right into the collection recall. Then we added in more dog speed and motion by coming from a tunnel. So I set up this U-shaped tunnel up here for those that are just having class this week. This bar on the ground is here because most likely you will have to move the jump to this point or change the angle of the jump to this point, and maybe I'll just move it there in looking at this now, but so that they can come from the tunnel straight on. But I basically had them stand in the middle, send to the tunnel, and I wanted them to send to the tunnel so that they could be standing in collection recall on the landing side of this jump, and then same thing, send to the tunnel, standing in collection recall on the landing side of this jump, so that they got to work the collection recall both directions with the speed and arousal of a tunnel, but with the handler still stationary in step 2. Okay, then we progressed and discussed step 3. So when you add in the handler motion and the dog stationary, so we discussed how they can see the collection recall with convergence, and then how they can see it as the second half of a front cross. I went through and reviewed that with them, showed them how to differentiate that for the dogs, and I had them go back and grab a jump and work on that at a jump. Then we started on to step 4 and put it all together. So once you've done that warm up, the tunnel, and then the other warm up with the handler motion, then you can start to look at the cones. So the cones are out for both weeks 1 and 2 classes. Again, in a second for week 2, I'll give you the drills I was thinking for them, but it's going to be basically a lead out push versus collection, true collection recall, compare and contrast. But on your cones, there's blue and then there's yellow. So blue starts at the winglet, or they both start at this wingless to the tunnel. Okay, blue goes wingless, straight tunnel, and then out of the tunnel, they go to this black to the weave. So my thought here was collection recall at the end of the straight tunnel so that they're seeing it on the tunnel too. And then out of the poles, they're gonna go, right now it's numbered with wingless, red, dog walk. Off the dog walk, Susan, here's your big forward send to the blue, back to this red, so they got the collection recall here, to this red, and then Susan, here's your lateral send, up the line to the tunnel, so they're gonna layer that black with their lateral send, up the line to the tunnel, cones turn around, to that yellow, teeter, and then it kind of just finishes with tunnel, A-frame, straight out to the double. So that's 1 to 16 on the blues. All right, then the yellow cones is another sequence. So it starts here at the wingless to the tunnel again. This time we go from the tunnel over to the blue tunnel, which kind of plays into the week 2 lesson plan. I'll go into that in a minute. But then out of the tunnel, you go yellow, teeter, to this yellow tunnel, to this red, back to the black, to the yellow, And here at the red would be your collection recall. Realistically, we want the dog to jump in collection to get a nice line to the black. Also helps eliminate the off-course tunnel. And then it's numbered with 8 being the wingless, 9 is the front side of the yellow. The line is a little tricky, so you might have them go to the back side of the yellow if they're a more advanced class, because then we go to 10, which again, I haven't quite got this line the way I want it because it's a little bit of a converging line there. But then 11's the weaves. And then out of the weaves, they go red, sorry with the zooming, red over to this red. So they got to run up front cross, collection recall here, over to this red, wingless to the left end of that yellow tunnel. So that's 1 to 15 on the yellow cones. Okay. So for those of you on week 1, you could probably just break those sequences and isolate the collection recalls on those sequences. Okay, so you can, like last week I did lots of short, I think no more than 8 or 10 obstacle drills with mine because of A, time, and then B, I just wanted to kind of keep it rapid fire, keep it moving, and isolate the recalls. So you could cut that up and just go like jump weaves and then around the loop to the send with the convergence there to the red to the tunnel, so on and so forth. Okay, so that those of you that are on week 1, that's what I have planned for your lesson plan. Those of you on week 2, again, I was thinking kind of a lead out push versus collection recall, compare and contrast. So on this, basically the dog either needs to collect at the jump or they collect and turn on the flat, and their location determines that for them, and or a verbal if they have a verbal collection cue. So what I was thinking is their warm up is they could each grab a jump, warm up their collection recall where they're asking for true collection, and then warm up lead out push cues where they're standing further out so that the dog can differentiate and see the two based off of location. And then I personally, as a handler, also, when I don't want the dog to truly collect, I also offset myself from the jump. So my location's further out, and then I'm offset so that it's looks very clearly different than when I truly want collection, I am right in front of them. So that's another bit you can throw in there for them. But then you have a compare and contrast of panel, red to black. And where you go after the black can kind of depend on the level of the class. But for most of mine, I'll probably have them go up to the back side of the red and then maybe over to that wingless, maybe tunnel A-frame or something like that, or just up to the back side of the red. But that would be just a plain old lead out push, right? Dog does not need to truly collect at the jump. If anything, maybe relative collection where they shorten their stride, but they don't take off distance away. Okay. Then they can compare with the panel to the red with a true collection, or so collection recall to that red, and then you can have them go tunnel up the line to like the yellow or something up there. Okay, so they can compare and contrast their lead out pushes with collection and without, because then when you look at those sequences I just went over, you have the start of jump to tunnel once where they actually need the dog to slow down and collect in the tunnel to make the turn back to the black. But then on that second one, they could lead out push this, and I'd almost suggest they lead out push this, and they would not need the dog to collect at all. They can stand further downstream and the dog can come out of the tunnel in extension. Okay, so they're gonna see collection recall on both your straight tunnel and on your jumps this week. I'm just trying to give them a different vibe, a different flow. So that is the lesson plan for both weeks 1 and 2. And then that way, the other thing I'd like all classes to do is give them the homework of starting the bend recall. So in the last few minutes of class, and I'll put this in the notes in case you stopped listening after week 1, but start the bend recall, review the bend recall, and then they can start working on it for homework at a jump. Okay, that way we can make sure everybody's on the same page throughout the rest of the session. And I'll probably just blow over extension recall this session. In the past we've done some extension jumping grids. I'm not sure I'll find the time to squeeze those in. We'll just see how the other recalls go, but like I said, I just didn't want to do a divided lesson plan for the rest of the session because I think that could get confusing. So let me know if there's questions, and that's that.